Welcome to the Tundra Energy Marketing Limited Environmental Awareness Training. The outline of this course includes training objectives, environmental commitments and responsibilities, environmental management program, environmental resources, environmental issues, site-specific environmental documents, and a quiz. Other objectives include informing employees and contractors of their commitments and responsibilities regarding environmental protection, and to familiarize employees and contractors with the TEML Environmental Management Program, the EMP. Also, to identify key environmental resources and outline potential environmental issues. We at TEML aim for zero incidents that could cause adverse effects of the environment, are committed to responsible stewardship of the environment throughout the life cycle of our facilities, establish and maintain business practices that minimize impacts to the environment, pledge to continually improve our environmental performance, and hold each employee and contractor accountable for compliance with our environmental commitments. The Environmental Management Program, or EMP, outlines how TEML manages environmental activities and is a requirement of the National Energy Board, or NEB. A company shall develop, implement, and maintain an environmental protection program that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates conditions that could adversely affect the environment. TEML's EMP is aligned with the overarching Safety and Loss Management System, SLMS, and includes governance on acceptable environmental practices, performance, and accountabilities. TEML has various resources to support the EMP, including a full-time environmental professional, environmental contractors and consultants, environmental training, pipeline operations and maintenance manual, POM, and environmental guidelines for construction, EGC, and finally, regular environmental inspections and audits. The TEML Pipeline Operations and Maintenance Manuals, known as POMs, are intended to ensure environmental compliance is achieved during the management of the day-to-day field operations. POMs provide information and procedures that promote environmental protection in the operation of TEML facilities. Environmental POMs include biosecurity for operational activities, contaminated soil identification and temporary storage and disposal, environmental permits, licenses, and approvals, environmental screening and clearances for operational activities, erosion control, ozone depleting substances, stormwater management, vegetation management, waste storage, water-washed soil storage, disposal and reuse, groundwater monitoring program, NEB facilities, National Pollutant Release Inventory, NPRI, and Contaminated Sites Program. The TEML Environmental Guidelines for Construction, known as EGC, are standard environmental guidelines and mitigative measures that can be used as a supplement to the POMs, based on regulatory requirements and best management practices, adhered to during the planning and implementation of TEML construction projects, and specific to TEML projects in Southeast Saskatchewan and Southwest Manitoba. Some of the common environmental issues related to the operation of TEML facilities include fish and wildlife habitat, watercourses and wetlands, spill response, biosecurity, erosion control, waste management, heritage resources and traditional land use, vegetation management, stormwater management, and water-washed soil. For more information, refer to the TEML POMs and EGC. In the event an environmental issue is identified, please contact TEML Environment at 306-636-2854. Federal acts such as the Species at Risk Act, Fisheries Act, and Migratory Birds Convention Act prevent damage and destruction to the environment. Unapproved physical alteration to fish or wildlife habitats can have serious consequences, including monetary penalties. Before engaging in any activity that could potentially impact a fish or wildlife habitat, contact the TEML Environment Department to ensure all the required permits and approvals are obtained and the necessary environmental controls are determined. TEML designs and operates facilities that minimize potential impacts to watercourses and wetlands. Restrictions may apply to work in and around watercourses or wetlands, e.g., Aquatic Habitat Protection Permit, DFO permit, etc. Before any activity in or near a watercourse or wetland, contact the TEML Environment Department to ensure all required permits are obtained and the necessary environmental controls are determined. Spills of TEML products may result in damage to soil, water, and air quality, fish and wildlife habitat, archaeological artifacts, or company reputation. In the event of a spill, environmental consulting companies are hired to ensure the site is remediated to the appropriate federal and provincial criteria. TEML owns spill response equipment which is stationed at strategic points along the pipeline routes and facilities. Spill kits should be located at all terminals to handle smaller spills. Working on the right-of-way requires diligent inspection and control measures in order to prevent the introduction of weeds, pests, diseases, etc. Based on information known about the location, determine whether a rough or fine clean procedure should be applied. Rough cleaning. This means reasonable efforts used to remove excess soil and vegetation debris, generally accomplished with shovels, brooms, and brushes, and is the minimum equipment cleaning requirement expected at all TEML sites before and after the equipment is used. Fine cleaning. This means soil and vegetation debris have been removed to a rough clean condition, and the equipment has been power washed or steam cleaned to remove the remaining soil or vegetation debris, and the parts of the equipment that come into contact with the soil have been misted with a 1 to 2% bleach solution or equivalent. And this is also the equipment cleaning requirement where biosecurity may be an issue. Erosion typically occurs from wind and water and can be controlled through a variety of options such as silt fencing, vegetation, tackifier, erosion control blankets, etc. Erosion control is necessary to contain excavated soil on site, prevent and minimize erosion, prevent sediment from entering wetlands or water bodies, and to prevent pipe exposure. Applicable federal provincial waste regulations must be followed when handling waste. TEML uses full-service waste disposal contractors to dispose of hazardous and industrial wastes. A dedicated waste storage area must be provided at facilities and locations along the right-of-way. Segregate waste types to ensure non-hazardous wastes are not contaminated by hazardous wastes, and post signs that identify the storage area, safety warnings, and any other general storage instructions. Any employee or contractor conducting ground disturbance activities and vegetation control is required to avoid impacting heritage resources, some of which may not be easily recognized or identified. A heritage resource review may be required prior to commencing fieldwork. Consultation with First Nation representatives is required in areas where local traditional use is recognized. Facilities and pipeline right-of-ways may require vegetation management controls such as herbicide spraying for weed control, brushing of trees and shrubs, mowing, etc. The 4 types of vegetation control are mechanical. Mechanical control of weeds and brush is preferred to chemical control. Chemical. Herbicides must be applied by licensed applicators. Retain a copy of the applicator's license at the applicable office. Botanical. Seedgrass is recommended as a vegetative cover to control erosion and provide competition for weeds. Physical. Use surface cover fabrics to protect sites from erosion and to control vegetation growth. Stormwater collected in a facility containment structure must be discharged or disposed of in a manner that does not adversely affect the environment by releasing pollutants or by causing erosion to lands. When discharging off-site, visually inspect for an oily sheen, suspended solids, or for foam. Field screen for pH, hydrocarbons, and chlorides in Manitoba only. Discharge using a slow flow rate to prevent soil erosion. During certain circumstances, confirmation from laboratory sampling may be required. If stormwater is contaminated, dispose of it at a registered waste disposal facility. Water-washed soil is often generated during TEML projects and O&M activities in both low and high-risk areas. In low-risk areas, there are limited underground facilities and a low potential for historical contamination. In high-risk areas, there are a significant number of underground facilities and a high potential for historical contamination. If there is a hydrocarbon odor, staining, or sheen, consider the water-washed soil contaminated and contact Environment for direction with sampling and disposal. If there is no hydrocarbon odor, staining, or sheen, consider the water-washed soil uncontaminated and reuse on-site or, with approval from operations, haul to a TEML clean water-washed soil containment cell. During certain environmentally sensitive projects and O&M activities, site-specific environmental clearances are developed to ensure environmental protection. Information in environmental clearance may include regulatory permits and approvals, mitigative measures, survey drawings, etc. For larger projects, more detailed site-specific environmental documents may be required, such as an environmental protection plan, environmental and socio-economic assessment, etc. Thank you for viewing the TEML Environmental Awareness Training. Please take the quiz to complete the training.